What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to one of my favourite decks, and that is of course Dark Worlds. So this is Dark Worlds without any Fiendsmith involvement. If you do want to add in the Fiendsmith engine, you can do. It will give the deck a little bit more versatility to play around Droll and play through Droll, but then it will adapt the extra deck a lot more. I'm going to try and keep this as close as possible to Dark Worlds with dangers, and you're trying to respect Droll, as Droll is either in the main deck or guaranteed to be in the side deck right now of this format, so it's something that you need to be aware of. I'm going to show you my demo side deck as well at the end of the video, so you have an idea of what you might be looking for to put into this deck and sliding in and sliding out patterns. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Starting with the Dark World monsters themselves, we are on 2 of the mighty Grepher Dragon Lord of the Dark World. I am still hoping and fingers crossed that we're going to get more Dark World support soon. It'd be really kind of cool to keep getting a little bit of support here and there for Dark Worlds. And the one thing that they do need is a card that will directly allow them to play through Droll Bird. But they kind of arguably have that in the sense of the Dark World Accession leading you into your Grepher Fusion monster. But you kind of need to do that a little bit later on in your turn. Then carrying on, we do play 3 Snow. I'm slightly disappointed that Snow didn't get an upgrade in Rarity Collection 4 like Grepher, but I'm also quite happy because then to have to buy Greffers and Snows would have been a little bit painful. But I would love to see a future upgrade for Snows and the rest of these that I'm about to show you, the Rainbows and the Gentas for sure. Like Genta definitely needs an upgrade. I would love to see this card get an upgrade. Such a good card. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Dark World strategy, the idea is that when they're discarded to the graveyard, annoyingly, specifically, they would then be able to trigger effects. Now, the one big difference between the Dark Worlds and everything else is that the Dark Worlds need to specifically be discarded to the graveyard by a card effect. So if it's discarded by the card effect, great. If it's sent as cost, so if you activate something like Twin Twisters and discard a card as cost, it won't trigger. But if it's discarded as an effect, like something like card destruction, they will start to trigger, which is all really good. Genta is the ability to discard it to then add a Gate of the Dark World from the deck to the hand. And then once per turn, if this card is banished and you control a Dark World card, you get to special summon it back. Grepher, if it's discarded via any card effect itself, it allows you to basically... I'm going to go through these just so you have a bit of an idea, because I don't think I've ever really gone through the Dark World effects themselves. So this card could be special summoned from the graveyard by returning a Dark World monster you control to the hand, which is really easily done because it's just like an inherent summon. Like, it doesn't activate or anything. You just go, cool, return this Dark World, summon out the big guy. Then if it is discarded via card effect, you target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. That is mandatory, so it has to happen, and it will have to be the lower chain links unless you have multiple mandatory effects to resolve. But then if it is discarded via your opponent's card effect, you get to look at a random card in your opponent's hand, and then if it's a monster, you get to special summon it to your field. You get both effects. When it's discarded by any card effect, you just get an addition if it's done by an opponent's card effect, and that's kind of what your Grepher Dragon Overlord does. It basically means that your opponent's card effect, quite like Phantom of Yugioh, becomes a different effect. The Snow, if it's discarded by any card effect, you get to add a Dark World card from the deck to the hand. These are not hard once per turn either. They're soft once per turn, so per copy. So if you're able to loop back your Snow or constantly discard the Snow, you're constantly going to be able to keep searching. If it's discarded via opponent's card effect, not only do you get to add, but you can also target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and then revive that card as well. The Rainbow, if it is discarded by any card effect, well, this one still has the same effect as Grepher. It can be special summoned from the graveyard by returning level 7 or lower, which basically means this is the one that can't return Grepher. So what you'd want to do is you return level 7 or lower to summon the Rainbow back to the field, and then you return the Rainbow back to the hand to summon down the Grepher, and it basically just allows you to regain hand resource. So if this card is discarded by any card effect, you get to add a level 5 or higher Dark World from the deck to the hand, except itself. And if it's discarded from the hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can also special summon a level 4 or lower Dark World from the deck to either field. So the reason that's important is you have a card called Ceruli, which basically goes to your opponent's field and then makes you discard a card, but it's acting as if it's your opponent's monster effect, so that's when you're going to get double effects. So hopefully I've explained those well enough. Moving on to the next ones. I play the 1 silver and the wrong gold. Now I know this always triggers people. The reason I do this is because you can never guarantee that you're going to go first. If I go first, silver is God. You get to resolve silver. So the idea behind this one is if it is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you special summon it. But if it's discarded via your opponent's card effect, your opponent has to put 2 cards from their hand back to the deck. And as I've mentioned before, the older Dark Worlds are not hard once per turns or even soft once per turns. So if you're able to resolve discarding silver from your hand via an opponent's card effect more than once, they are going to constantly keep losing handed resource. So the way you do that is with your Ceruli. So if this card is discarded to the graveyard by any card effect, you special summon this card from the graveyard to your opponent's side of the field. If this card is special summoned, or technically when this card is special summoned by an effect of a Dark World card, including itself, your opponent, which is then us, has to discard a card. So that's when you can start discarding silver. Silver comes back to the field and then takes 2 from your opponent's hand. So silver is your ideal for going first. Gold is ideal for going second. So gold has the exact same effect that if it's discarded via a card effect, it summons itself back to the field. But if it is discarded via your opponent's card effect, you get to target 2 cards on the field, or 2 cards your opponent controls, and destroy them. So the idea is, when your opponent draws for turn, if you've played this correctly, you would have taken at least 4 cards from your opponent's hand. So when they draw for turn, if they activate any monster effect, what you want to try and do is you want to be able to try and use your Grepher Fusion monster to turn the effect to become we discard, like the Dark World player discards a card. So that's when you can trigger gold and pop 2 cards. But the idea is, if I'm going second, I'd much rather discard the gold to destroy 2 cards than try and take 2 cards from my opponent's hand, unless they have a huge amount of hand resource and then a bit of a difference. But the biggest downside of silver is that your opponent chooses. So unless you're going to constantly resolve it multiple times, going first can be a little bit trickier to deal with because your opponent can't really interact with it that much. If they haven't opened up hand traps, what you're going to ultimately end up doing is burning down their resource until they're keeping all their starters, and that's where Trivial Tactic Talents can come into play, or you just resolve silver multiple times so they're left with 1 card and a top deck. So you kind of clear out everything they've got. Whereas with gold, if I'm going second and my opponent is got like 2 cards in the hand, okay, silver's kind of good because those 2 cards are put back. But if they've got 3 cards left in the hand, then silver's going to make them put 2 back. And because they choose, they're obviously going to put back the weakest cards that they don't want in their hand. Whereas with gold, you have complete control to go, right, effect of gold, ditch that, destroy that, destroy that. It's just one of them ones that I quite like this balance. I like the balance of being able to go first and go second. In an ideal scenario, if you know you're going to be going first, then you'll side out a gold and you'll put in 2 silvers. If you know you're going to be going second, you might even side out the silver and go for 2 golds. Very rare that will happen, but that's just an option. I like this balance. It just works for me. As I say with most of my profiles, these are all just baseline options. They're what work for me. If it doesn't work for you and you want to play 2 silver, by all means. If you want to play 2 Cerrutis, by all means, do so. I'm not saying you can't, and I'm not saying that this is the best way to play it. This is just a baseline for you to work with and then adapt to your personal preference. Then moving on to my normal summon of the deck. Right now, Droll is running rampant. I really do like this as my main normal summon of the deck. Sometimes I'll mess around with Ken and Gen just because it gives you that ability to play a little bit differently. But when Droll is prominent in the format, my go-to normal summon in my main deck is going to be the Quoki Miru Guardian. Now, I know a lot of people go, well, why wouldn't you play Crossout, Call By, and maybe even a card like Sales Ban or Prohibition? Absolutely fine to do that as well if you wanted to. What I like about the Quoki Miru Guardian is it does present you with a body on the board. None of these Dark World cards really do you want to be normal summoning because they don't really have a normal summon effect. You're basically just summoning a vanilla. So when you open up the ability to play a card like Ken and Gen, which the issue with that is it does play harder into a Draw and Lock Bird a lot easier, when you're able to go normal summon Quoki Miru Guardian, what you're ideally saying to your opponent is, my first search, you're either going to attempt to droll it on resolution, and I'm going to tribute off my Quoki Miru Guardian to make sure that I don't worry about that droll at that particular point. And if you have 2 drolls, so be it, you have 2 drolls. Or it's going to force them to use infinite impermanence to negate the Quoki Miru Guardian. If they need to do that, it means they have to activate imperm early because Quoki Miru Guardian tributes as cost. So if your opponent was to go draw a Lock Bird and you go, okay, cool, Quoki Miru Guardian, it's no longer on the field for them to imperm it, so it dodges that. They would have to go imperm, and you go, okay, and then they would have to go droll in that same window after you've resolved a search, and you just go, okay, cool, Quoki Miru Guardian. So it kind of makes it very, very awkward for them to stop this card, and even if they don't have droll, your Quoki Miru Guardian then becomes a bit of a wall for any hand trap that they might attempt to play. Yes, in the past, one of the hand traps we couldn't really play around was Dimension Shifter, but now that that's gone down to 1, that's more of a less reliant. The only thing that you're going to get hurt by is if they drop a Fluoros during the draw phase and you go, well, technically that's okay because I can tailor my field and tailor my extra deck summons and my main deck summons to kind of not even really play into the Fluoros. I might give you like 1 or 2, but I still have that ability to constantly either look at your hand or rip cards from it with the silver, and it's still going to put you at a disadvantage. Perulio, on the other hand, is a bit of a pain in the backside because that's where the dangers really start giving your opponent draw cards. But then if you play it correctly, you can rely less on the dangers, which is why I don't play that big of a package for the dangers. And you're kind of really trying to dictate around all the particular hand traps that are in the format. If your opponent decides to hold back a Fluoros or a Perulia, you still just go normal summon Quacking Mirror Guardian, and then they don't really have an option to activate. They activate, you go, okay, cool, Quacking Mirror Guardian. So there's loads of different things to do, loads of different things to play around with, and I just really like this card. If it does go through that I draw through a lot of my cards, if I'm able to hold the Quacking Mirror Guardian and leave it on the field and reveal another Quacking Mirror Guardian, it stays on the field, great, during the end phase. If not, you're always going to use it as fodder for either Link plays or XYZ plays, as it is a level 4, and it just gives you a bit more versatility. This is my normal summon for choice for going first. It can still be great going second as well, because going second I go, right, draw phase, standby phase, main phase, normal summon Quacking Mirror Guardian. It then means that I've got a complete trade on the field no matter what my opponent has. So my opponent wants to go, all right, cool, activate monster effect. And I'm like, that might interact with me a little bit more than I want to, tribute off the Quacking Mirror Guardian. So I really like this. I highly advise it. It's one of the ones, if you don't own a Quacking Mirror Guardian and you want to play Dark World, I highly advise you get a playset. Whether you choose to use them or not is entirely up to you, but I still think it's a great normal summon. And right now, I still feel it's the best normal summon to be in a defensive capacity for the entire strategy. So that's it for the entire Dark World cards and like the technical normal summon of the deck. Moving on to the dangers. So for the dangers, I've gone with a bit of a balance. So I've got 2 Nessie, 2 Jackalope, 2 Mothman, which I really wish would get a Quarter Century upgrade. This is like the last one that is a technical playable danger that needs an upgrade. Because really when you're looking at the dangers you're going to play first, you're going to play Nessie first, then Jackalope, then Mothman, or like Mothman will probably be more prioritized than Jackalope in my opinion, for the Dark World strategy, just because of that discard effect. But then you also have something like Chupacabra you might consider. The last danger that I am actually playing is going to be the Bigfoot, and that just gives me the balance of going second and being a little bit more aggressive. But if you wanted to, you could very easily take out the Bigfoot and go for a 3rd Nessie or a 3rd Mothman. Then the honorary danger that I like to play is the Salamander Catalyzer. Now the reason you play dangers in Dark Worlds is because their discard effects is via card effects, so it means it will trigger off your Dark Worlds as well. The plus side of that is you trigger off your Dark Worlds. The downside of it is if you hit with Drone Lockbird, these really, really hurt. So it's something you do need to keep in mind. The reason that I like the Salamander Catalyzer is if I am under draw, the Catalyzer still gives me that ability to control what I want to discard. The dangers are going to be random discards, whereas the Salamander Catalyzer will allow me to go, all right, you know what, I'm under draw. I'm going to use the Salamander Catalyzer to discard another thing that might not search. So maybe I want to discard something like a gold to summon it back, or a silver to summon it back, or a Grepher to destroy a card. It gives me that little bit more flexibility, whereas the danger, you're sitting there going, please don't hit that card, please don't hit that card, please don't hit that card. So it gives you a bit more flexibility. So that's it for all of the monsters, bar the hand trap, which I'll talk about at the end. Moving on to the spells, 2 gates. This is just my preference. I've always had an issue when I played 3. Like every single time I've had an issue, I always clog on it, I always brick on it. So I decided to play 2. I know a lot of people play 3, absolutely fine. 2 just works for me. 1 a session, I'm highly tempted to be putting this up to 2. I just really, really like this card. The fact it has a graveyard effect as well is insane. So actually, just to kind of give you a quick overview of the dangers, just so you have, like, I'm trying to give you as much information as possible, but I'm so used to profiling this deck that I've kind of skipped over them for any new players. All the dangers, they reveal, and then your opponent randomly picks a card that gets discarded. If you don't pick the danger, if they don't pick the danger will summon, and then you draw a card. If they do pick a danger, they all have discard effects. So Bigfoot, if it's discarded, you target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. The Mothman, both players draw a card and discard a card, which then becomes discarded as card effect. The Jackalope lets you special summon a danger from the deck, which sometimes could be quite useful because Mothman can help you get into your rank 4s, and then your Bigfoot can help you get into your rank 8s. And the Nessie lets you search out another danger. The one big thing to remember about these is your danger discard effects are hard once per turn, so you can't use the same discard effect of a Nessie twice in 1 turn, but the reveal to summon is as many times as you have copies. So if you have the ability to return a danger from the field back to the hand, which you will do, and I'll show you that in the extra deck, you can then reveal it again and keep going and going and going. You can still use them under draw, it just means that every time they summon, you can't draw. One other really important thing to remember about the dangers, and this is something that I learned way back when dangers first happened, is if you are under a floodgate that says you cannot control any darks, or you're under a floodgate that says you can't special summon monsters, you can still continue to reveal the dangers. The reason you would do something like that is if your opponent had something, for example, like a Vanity's Fiend on the field, and you wanted to destroy it, you could constantly keep revealing the Nessie, even though you can't special summon the monster, just to make sure you hit the danger Bigfoot as a discard. Obviously, you're going to be burning through your resource quite a lot, so unless you're incredibly lucky and hit the Danger Bigfoot on the first try, the reason you can do that is because the summon is not guaranteed. So you can constantly keep revealing until you hit a discard. Obviously, if I reveal Nessie and they discard something else, Nessie will not summon, but the idea is you want to keep revealing until they hit the Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot's effect, destroy the vanities, and then reveal Nessie, and off you go. Gates of the Dark World, all fiends on the field, all fiend monsters gain 300 attack and defense, and then once per turn you get to banish a fiend type monster from the graveyard, discard a fiend type monster, and then draw a card. So you discard as effect, get a benefit for the back one, draw for that one, banish Yugioh, summon it back. Accession is during the main phase only. You get to fusion summon a fiend fusion monster from the extra deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from the field or grave. If you fusion summon a Dark World monster this way, you can also discard monsters as material, meaning that you can trigger their effects. And if this card is in the graveyard, you get to add this card to the hand to then discard as effect a Dark World monster. So again, just more ways of being able to trigger your Dark World effects. The one Archives during the main phase, which this arguably could be cut if you wanted to, but I still really like it. It does put in a bit of work for me. During your main phase, discard a Dark World monster, and if you do, Dark World monster you can currently control gain attack equal to the level of that discarded monster. So again, discard it as effect, gain benefits, times 100 until the end of this turn. And then if a monster whose original type is Fiend is discarded from the hand by a card effect of a Dark World card or an opponent's card effect, even during the damage step, you get to discard a card to draw 2. So again, discard as effect, get a benefit, draw 2 cards. Now the one Dark World card that I am main decking in this particular format is Dark World Puppetry. So you target up to 3 cards in either graveyard, banish them, and then discard a Fiend monster, again as effect. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to target one of your banished Fiend monsters and add it back to the hand. So it lets you recycle your Genta, but then it's also that ability of technically being a 3 times DD Crow, which is really, really important when you're looking at the Mitsurugi style and plays right now, that if they're trying to go, cool, I'm going to activate Amano Mokumo to come back and then destroy the field, you go, okay, cool, Chain Puppetry, banish the Mokumo, banish the Saji, banish the, especially if their cards are sent as cost as well. So like if you activate the Ritual Spell and Tribute from the deck, I think it will, actually no, it wouldn't do anything because on the new chain, they would then go chain it once. But if they're trying to recycle cards from the graveyard, you go, okay, cool. Effective Puppetry, target the Ritual Spell, target Saji, target the Amirakumo, banish all 3, discard a Dark World, gain an effect, and then go from there. 1 card destruction, 1 Dark Corridor, and the reason that these become even more consistent is I am main decking the 3 Triple Tactics Thrust. This is actually really quite useful for the side deck as well, and you'll see that when we go through it. Backing these up, we do have the 1 Talents, and I am main decking the 1 DDG. I just kind of felt that this was one of the more balanced trap cards. Like the only time this trap card, and this is mainly if I get drolled. If I get drolled, but I have a Thrust, I go, cool, Thrust, set me the DDG. I'm looking at what I would more likely to face, and I'm more likely to face Raizu or Mitsurugis than I am Malice. In Malice, this card's completely dead, you wouldn't do that, you'd probably just scoop it up and go to game 2, or game 3, depending on where you're at. But especially in game 2, actually, you'd side this out and go for something like a Sanctum. Either way, I digress. The idea is that I feel that this is the most balanced card. I don't think there is one normal trap card in the current format that you could set which would hit every single deck that you may or may not face. I just feel that this is the one that hits the most, but you can take this out completely if you wanted to and go for a different card. You can probably even double up your Dark Corridor. So Dark Corridor lets you add a Dark World monster from the deck to the hand, and then you discard a card. The issue with this card is it runs head first into draw, because you activate this, you add, you discard a Dark World, and then on a new chain, you'll have mandatory Chainlink 1 more times than not of something like a Dark World Snow. You'd go Chainlink 1 Snow, and they'll go Chainlink 2 Droll, and you're like, cool, Snow doesn't do anything, it just sits there in the grave. Or you'd go Ceruli, Ceruli would summon to your opponent's field, but they would still draw you, and you're like, cool, Ceruli discard Silver is like the best thing you could do, but you need to have hard opened up one of your one-ofs being Silver or Ceruli. So it's something to kind of consider. You can play it at 2 if you want to. If you have less Triple Tactics Frost, then you could probably put this one up to 2, just because it is the most effective card. Unfortunately, it's not a Dark World card, so it's not searchable that way, and it is a hard once per turn, so it's not as resilient. But it just kind of gives you a bit of an option to play around with. And the last card, pretty standard, 3 Mulchomi Fluoros. Like, this is, I would say, the #1 staple hand trap right now. Just because if you're going second, great card. If you're going first, it's just the easiest side out card, which we'll see when we go to the side deck. Now, I know I'm going through this video in as much detail as possible, like we're nearly at 20 minutes and I haven't even done the extra deck, but I wanted this to be informative for new players, and then I also wanted to provide you with an understanding of the current format if you're trying to play this as a more experienced player. So moving on to the extra deck, we've got 2 Grepher Dragon Overlord. This requires specifically Grepher Dragon and a Dark Monster. So when your opponent activates a monster effect of a normal spell or trap or a monster effect itself, while you have a card or cards in your hand, you get a quick effect to activate this effect. The activated effect your opponent just played becomes your opponent, being us, discards a card. So that would then trigger off your secondary effects for your Dark Worlds. You can only use this effect once per turn, and if this fusion card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you get to special summon one of your Grepher Dragon Lords of the Dark World that is banished or in the graveyard. Then each player with a hand discards a card. So again, that will just allow you to discard a Dark World and get a bit of an advantage. For the XEs, we are on Baguska. If you get like hand trapped to death, but you still get 2 level 4s on the board, then you'd overlay those. Dageres, if you want to be a little bit greedy, you'd ideally use the effect of this one to draw 2, detaching 2, draw 2, discard 1, because again, it's discard as effect, so it triggers off your Dark Worlds. I'm trialing out the Infection Bugs King. You can play any rank 8 that you want, or you can play any extra deck monster. If you want to play something like Ultimate Slayer in your side deck, then you could start flexing out some of these spots for targets. But this one is just one of the ones which is still technically a bit more of a win more con. But the idea is if your opponent has like a Typhon, and you're like, right, Typhon would ruin my field, all they need to do is normal summon a monster, no effect, Typhon. You'd go into Buzz King. Buzz King will look through the opponent's extra deck, rip it away. The other benefit of Buzz King as well is it does have a burn effect, which can be really, really annoying. So once per turn during your standby phase, you attach a card to your opponent's graveyard to this card as material. You can only use each effect once per turn. And then if this card is XYZ, you get to look at your opponent's extra deck and send one card from it to the graveyard. You detach a material from this card to then target a card your opponent controls, destroy it. Then if you destroy it, a face-up monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack it had. Now, luckily, it's target one of your opponent's cards, because if it was like target one of any card on the field, you would just pop your own card and then burn your opponent for that damage, which would be disgusting. But it's one of them, if you're going second, you've kind of pulled everything apart, but you haven't got enough to get actual physical damage onto the field, you can just go into Buzz King and then do it that way. Finally, for the XE, you got the one Typhon. Moving on to Link monsters, we have IP, Muckraker, Kasich, Dark the Dark Charmer, Nightmare Phoenix, SP Little Knight. So as you can see, we play like a lot of generic Link 2s. The only one that is a little bit out there or a little bit different from most generic decks is the Akashic Magician. The benefit of a card like this is it requires 2 monsters with the same type except token. So you're playing a lot of Fiends, which is very easily done. You can only link summon it once per turn this way, and if it is link summoned, you return all monsters this card points to non-target to the hand. Once per turn, you can declare a card name, excavate the top card of your deck, equal to the total link rating of the link monsters that is co-linked to this card. Then if you excavated any copies of the declared card, add them to the hand. Now, obviously, very rare that that's going to happen, but the benefit of something like a Akashic Magician, which can also be Security Dragon, and what I like about Akashic is you would put it in the extra monster zone, but you need to make sure that your side is a danger, and on your opponent's side is the Ceruli, because then your Akashic would return the Ceruli and the danger back to your hand. So you just go, cool, reveal danger, hopefully hit the Ceruli. Ceruli goes back to your opponent's field. Ceruli's effect will trigger, discarding a Silver at that point. Silver then rips another 2. So by the time you get into Akashic, you've probably ripped 4 from your opponent, which is just degenerate. And then for our higher level Link monsters, we play the one Saruja Skuldred, the one Abawa Q, the Lightless Shadow. And then I like the World Sea Dragons Atlantis lock. You don't have to play it. It's just one of the ones that is probably a bit more of a win more con. It is a win more con. The idea behind this one is that you turn your Skuldred Saruja into your World Sea Dragons Atlantis. You would have got a special summon off the back of your Saruja. So then any other monster you can get back to the field, very easily done. Go into the Muckraker, which would be below your Atlantis here. Then use Muckraker's effect to discard a card to bring back a Dark World monster. Then you would use the Atlantis effect to banish the entire field. But because after you've activated the Muckrakers, you are locked into bringing back Fiend monsters, and you are bringing back the monsters to your opponent's field as well, unless they have Fiends, you are not bringing anything back to their field. You would lose the Atlantis, but that's absolutely fine, because you would get back the Muckraker, you would get back the Dark World that you had on the field at that point, and then you're able to keep summoning out Fiend monsters. So if you have dangers that can reveal to hit Fiends like a Silver, you can summon them back. You can also return stuff like Snows, you can turn stuff like Silvers, all of that to work back into the Greffers. Not to mention the Muckraker discards as effect, so if you discarded any Dark World that could summon itself to the field, you're then ultimately at a position where you have Zelantis, Muckraker plus 2 Dark Worlds, so that when you activate the Zelantis to banish the field, and then you bring back the Muckraker plus the 2 Dark Worlds, you're ideally trying to work those Dark Worlds into a Rainbow and a Greffer, being a 27 and a 3k, and then you should have a Gate of the Dark World in rotation at that point. So your Rainbow will be 33, your Greffer will be 3k, so totally that is 6,300. Then your Muckraker, as it is a Fiend, will also be 1,300, so that's what, 6,300, 7,600. You've got 2 level 8s on the field, so if they do have any monster because maybe you brought back a Fiend, you just overlay those 8s and go into a Buzzkin Kid to get the final damage, or any other Dark World you could get to the field would then push in for that final amount of damage to finish the duel off. It's one of them ones that once you've burnt through a lot of resource, it's very rare that it comes up, but if you have burnt through a lot of resource, no one expects it, you hit them with the Zelantis, you clear their entire field off, and then you're putting them back to square one, and hopefully at that point you would have picked apart some of the cards in the hand, so they have very little to come back with. So that's it for the entire extra deck. Moving on to the side deck. Now, side deck's in different sleeves because they are currently bouncing around different decks of what I'm playing at that moment in the competitive scene. But standard, Lanciers, Drolls, Lightning Storms and Dusters just come off the back of your Thrusts. For the trap cards, we've got your targets, which you would adapt depending on the environment. So I've got D-Barrier, Sanctum, Mischief of the Gnomes, and Eradicator. Play whatever ones you feel like you want to be doing. It is pretty much Eradicator for any heavy spell or trap decks. You've got your Mischief and Gnomes for the Mitsurugi Ryzeals. You've got D-Barrier that can also hit Mitsurugi Ryzeal, but can also be quite effective against rogue decks. Like if you're up against White Forest, this can be quite annoying for them to deal with. Sanctum is for your Malice matchup, and again, you would adapt these depending on your environment. Like if you don't get to face any White Forest, you'd probably sacrifice the D-Barrier. You can play a more of aggressive trap card if you wanted to. You could play more Mischief of the Gnomes if you're going to be playing loads of those, and you can play more Sanctum if you're going to be playing loads of those. And then the final card that I am playing, once I get these out of the way, is Lava Golem. Just because you don't rely on your normal summon as previously mentioned, so you just go, cool, take out your Quacky Mirror Guardian for your Lava Golems. If your opponent is presenting a field that is annoying to deal with, just be very, very careful as this does tribute. So you'd be tributing off your opponent's Makumo, and then that would come back. So you're like, not really getting much advantage off it. But it would, what that would do is it would force the Raigeki, as I believe the Mirakumo. Let me see if I've got it to hand. I think the Mirakumo is mandatory. Is it like when it comes back, it then destroys the field? Where are we looking? If this card is tributed, you add a Mitsurugi card from the deck to the hand, except itself, then you special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So then if this card is special summoned, you destroy all monsters. So if they use the effect to bring it back, after you've tributed it with a Lava Golem, they then Raigeki an empty field, and then they can't use it again. So you kind of like bypass the Raigeki, which is really quite useful. But that's one thing you need to remember is you're not going to take that monster off the field, you're just going to give it back to them, but they would kind of lose up their Raigeki, unless they leave it in the grave, and if they leave it in the grave, it means they have another card to bring it back. So that's something you need to kind of like dictate. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. I know that I've gone in a lot of depth for that deck. I just love Dark World. I love the, you know, hopefully you can see the passion behind it and why I'm trying to explain it as much as I possibly can. I really do like the way that the deck works. It's just a shame that quite like most modern decks right now, there are silver bullets out there that just instantly end their turn. And that's something you need to be a little bit cautious of and just kind of play around with it and know it. But that's why I try to play with the Quacky Mirror Guardian. That's why I'm trying out the DDG, just to kind of make sure that I have ways to kind of counteract what my opponent might be trying to do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.